I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 212. If you don't already know, I'm Keff Ciardello, coming to you on Sunday, November 23rd, and the Bobcats are one win away from bowl eligibility. Big win for the Bobcats back at home at UFCU Stadium on Saturday, 31-14 over the ULM Warhawks. A second straight win after 5 consecutive losses. Talk about a roller coaster of a season, but now the Bobcats are looking at one game left, and if they win it, they'll be 6-6 and bowl eligible for a third consecutive season. That fifth win may not seem like a whole lot, but between 2015 and 2022, they could not get to that fifth win for 8 consecutive seasons. So it's nice to see them at least get over that hump. They've got one more game to be bowl eligible. See what they can do this weekend. South Alabama, big one. It's always been the last couple years, high scoring affairs. Bobcats have won both of them, but it goes down to the wire, so it's not going to be easy, especially with South Alabama on a 2-game winning streak. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the game this week. We'll talk about the game last week, yesterday, and we'll talk a little bit about what this is going to mean for the postseason. If there is one for the Bobcats, what that's going to look like. We're going to go over it. We've got one game left on the regular season in 2025. What a season it has been. We've got a great episode for you here. And this episode sponsored by The Galindo Collective, TGC LLC, thegalindocollective.com. That's Galindo, galindocollective.com. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own a property or a business and you want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC and on Instagram and Facebook at the Galindo Collective. Shout out to my guy, Rick Galindo, a Tech State grad, a true Texas State sicko. Third season he's been sponsoring Win Now or Get Bent. Cannot thank the Galindo Collective enough. Go check them out again at thegalindocollective.com. Galindo, galindocollective.com. And if you're watching on the YouTube page, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Share it with your friends. Do what you can. But if you're watching on there already, you can see me in this nice state script hat, rope hat, brought to us by bhihats.com. Been having it hats. We've seen the Cats by 90 look. They've busted out the white, the maroon. Now they've got the state hat. We want to see a white state hat as well. That's coming up, but they got to sell out of these hats first. So get in there. If you haven't gotten yours, go get you one. I saw my guy Russell Tuncap. I saw him at the game yesterday. We didn't run into each other. I saw him from the press box. I know he listens to the pod. My guy was wearing the state hat. I saw him from far away. It's great to see that out there, out in the wild. And when you go to bhihats.com, check out all their cool looks. And when you punch in WNOGB at your checkout as the promo code, you get 10% off. So get on there. One season left. Maybe you'll get your hat in time for a bowl game if the Bobcats can finish off this season right. But all right, bhihats.com. Okay, let's get to these Bobcats, shall we? Another win. It's been a roller coaster season, as I said before. It really feels like they have gotten a hold of this complementary football that they've been preaching and talking about as long as they've been here. It's what most coaches talk about, complementary football, wanting the offense and the defense and the special teams, everything to be on the same page. And it really feels like it's starting to get there. We've seen the offense. They've been the top offense in the Sun Belt, at least one of the top. If you look at total yards, the top scoring, I think JMU still got them. But one of the top offenses in the Sun Belt all season long, but they've been dealing with a defense that's been dragging them down, but not the last couple games. They've really gotten it together. This one's definitely on the defense. The last 10 quarters, ever since halftime of that Louisiana game, that second half of that Louisiana game where they only let a touchdown in that second half. They got some turnovers. It's really been it's been pretty lights out for this defense, relatively, comparatively from what they were before, when the offense would put up 40 points and gain 500 yards and still lose the game. I think they did that 2 games in a row during that 5-game losing streak. So this defense, it's really starting to pull its weight. Back-to-back games, holding opponents to 14 points. This time they held Louisiana Monroe to 300 total yards of offense as well. We were saying it before on the last episode, suspensions are never good, but man, it was really nice to see how many new players are able to get out there, and whether that's a byproduct of the suspensions or it's because we're at the point in the season where you can start playing a lot of these freshmen and it won't count towards their red shirt. They've already played enough games where they can't play 4 games for the rest of the season, so we are seeing more Christopher Jones, Cordorian Powell, players like this get out there. But even like someone like Tadarius Collins getting out there and doing some stuff. It's really these guys that we weren't seeing before being able to get out there. Even like a Craig Royal, he's doing great himself. Kamari Terrell was back, but it seemed like they were cycling through more corners than they were before. And I think losing some of those guys in that suspension helped them unload the bench a little bit and evaluate some more of their depth and get some of those guys out there. Because, man, it looked great. Because this time it wasn't different than their scheme. It's what they had always done. It was that 4-2-5 for the most part. They'd get in 3rd and long, and you'd see the 3-3-5 look. That was almost more of like a preventative measure, if you will. But for the most part, it was that 4-2-5. And you got to, as much as we bagged on Dexter McCoyle and this defense when they were doing bad, you got to give them credit when they're doing well, because that was their look. And I mean, we talked about it a lot. I was kind of surprised how many people were globbed on to who was calling plays on defense. That was a big topic of a conversation in the press box about that. But we were taking a look at it. We were probably all of us in the press box were looking at it a little bit closer. This game, who's calling plays? What's it look like on the sideline with Dexter McCoyle? And Dexter was calling all the huddles. It looks like he was calling all the plays. I mean, this is you gotta give him credit. It's been a really tough season. I don't know if that's enough for to carve out a future for him as the DC at Texas State. Who knows if they're willing to look at that as this is a young coach, this is a learning process, and he was able to turn it around and put up a formidable defense. But it's been a tough season for the Texas State defense, and they've at least done well the last couple games, and got to give them some credit where credit is due, because it looked great. I mean, wasn't a very good offense with ULM, and on their side they switched deep defensive coordinators, I think before the game and everything. So it was a pretty tough game for ULM, but Texas State sure looked good, and they've got one more, coming up with South Alabama, as I was talking about earlier. But I'm really proud of the defense. They played with a lot more heart than we've seen early, at least during that 5-game losing streak. They were swarm tackling. They were making sure tackles. It was good stuff. I was happy to see it. I hope it's not too little too late. And it's still frustrating when you see them play that way, and you think about how close 4 of those 5 losses, all of them except for the JMU one, when they lost those games in a row, they should have won. They were right there, and if the defense had shown a little bit of that in those 4 games, we'd be talking about a whole different story. We wouldn't be worried about Texas State having to win the last game of the season to be bowl eligible. We'd be talking about, are they going to take the Sun Belt West? But it's hard. You can't think about that one too much, especially when they've played as well as they have the last couple games. You don't want to dwell on that. They've looked really good, and they can still put together a respectable season, get to a bowl game. You win that bowl game, it's a 3rd straight season with a winning record, something that this place didn't have for a long time. So when you think about it in that perspective, in the grand scheme of it, it is overall improvement. It's just not quite the trajectory we all anticipated in year 3. And and I will say, I brought it up a little bit in the last episode, that maybe we got too excited in fall camp myself specifically when I'm predicting their wins and loss for the season. When you think about how many players they lost last season, and we'll go through that. We'll go through some of the transfers, the players that left, and how they've fared in their other schools. A lot of them went to P4s. We'll talk mainly about the P4s. But hats off to the defense. Hats off to Dexter McCoyle, getting that complimentary football out there. It was much needed for Texas State, because when it's going right for Texas State, when the defense is doing its job, man, this is a damn good looking team. And it's really the defense. They don't have to be lights out. They don't have to shut out the opposing team. They just need to be good enough. Texas State, this offense, they're going to get at least 30. It feels like every single game. 31 was kind of low for them. They were still able to pull out that win because of what the defense did. So they don't have to pitch a shutout. They don't have to get a bunch of turnovers for this offense to do anything. They just got to give the offense a chance, and they'll finish the job. Because, boy, is this offense a lot of fun. I'm having a blast watching Brad Jackson man this offense. He is an efficient young man, an efficient freshman quarterback. The efficiency is I mean, right, he leads the Sun Belt in passing yards and in completion percentage, 71%, 70.9%, if you want to get technical. If there's probably, I'm going to praise him a whole bunch here in just a second, but if there is one thing that I could criticize with his game when I talk about the efficiency, a good part of that efficiency is he makes quick decisions, and his decisions are usually correct. But they are really, really quick decisions. They're fast. It's nice. He's able to avoid sacks, get the ball out, do the right thing. I think that's the evolution of Brad Jackson going forward. And again, he's just a freshman. These are all stuff he can learn, is to actually go through the progressions a little bit more instead of just trying to get the ball out as quick as you can. Because there are plenty of times, even still, he's actually leaving some yards on the field, which is crazy to say for how well he's played this season, throwing the ball and everything. But there's a lot of times where he'll take the shallow pass, a check down to a short route by a receiver or tight end or running back out of the backfield when you have somebody streaking towards the end zone who's open. I've seen it so many times this season. So I hope the evolution of Brad Jackson is to just go through the reads a little bit more. And who knows, that could be counter to what the coaches are telling them and how they run this offense. They like to go quick. They could be like, hey, get that ball out in 2 seconds. The ball needs to be out of your hand, or you need to be running. One of those. That's one thing I would like to see is going through those progressions just a little bit more. But that's it. That's my only knock on him. He's been incredible. As I said earlier, leads the Sun Belt in yards and completion percentage. I was talking about it last episode, all of the Texas State quarterbacks that had thrown for 3,000 yards in their career. There was only 4 of them that had ever happened. Right now, Brad Jackson is 6th all-time for Texas State for passing yards at 2,769. So he's real close to that top 5. And the one quarterback blocking him from the top 5 is actually one of his coaches. Running backs coach Barrick Neely is 5th on that list for yards passed in a season, 2,875 in 2005. That's when he did that, just outside 3,000. We'll hear more about Barrick Neely here in a sec. 4th on that all-time passing list for Texas State, Bradley George, 3,121 in 2009. Barrick Neely is 3rd, so he's 5th and 3rd, 3,129 yards in 2003. Jordan McLeod is 2nd last season, 3,227 yards, and TJ Finley at the tippy top, 3,439 yards. It would have to be an incredible next 2 games for Brad Jackson to catch TJ Finley, but he just needs 250, over a little under 250, and he'll be over 3,000 and be in the top 5 of Texas State passers all time, single season all time. Guarantee you he's the only freshman on that list. Let's see. Yeah, because 2003, Barrick Neely was a sophomore. Sophomore. That's when he transferred over from Houston the year before and then played three seasons at Texas State. So it's safe to say that it's barring a really run-heavy attack against South Alabama, which is something we haven't seen the last 2 games when it's G.J. Kinney versus Applewhite. We've seen a whole lot of passing and everything. Brad Jackson could get up there. Brad Jackson, he also had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. Should say that. In this game against ULM, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Those 2 rushing touchdowns put him at 13 on the season. That's tied for the Sun Belt lead with Kentrell Bullock. Oh, actually, South Alabama player. So the two leaders in rushing touchdowns in the Sun Belt will be playing this Saturday in San Marcos. That'll be a fun one. That 13 scores on the ground, that also puts Brad Jackson 5th all-time at Texas State for a single season, tied for 5th again with Barrick Neely. So if he gets in there and punches in another one, he'll pass Barrick Neely and secure that 4th spot. Some more records for our guy Brad Jackson. Currently 5th all-time in total yards for a single season at Texas State. 3,348 yards is what he has. It's a good chance to pass TJ Finley in 2023 for second, when TJ had 3,520, but the record is 3,932. Barrick Neely, 2005. Barrick Neely, in the way of a lot of records, it's pretty fun that one of his coaches is out there in these record books as well. Brad, I mean, what an incredible freshman season for this guy. I know redshirt freshman. He was a true freshman last year, and we saw it. We'd see him run that ball and get in, 6 touchdowns in those 3 or 4 games. He was able to get in there off the bench as a true freshman. So, but what he's been able to put together with his arm and the poise, really, it's the decision-making and the undoubted leader of this offense as well, is something that is just so surprising for somebody at such a young age. We'll talk more about Brad Jackson here in a sec, but let's go to Bo Sparks. Probably should have opened with him because this one's pretty great. We talked about it on the last episode. If you tuned in to episode 211, he is now the first FBS receiver at Texas State to get over 1,000 yards. Just the 3rd season that has happened. 2nd receiver overall, with Cameron Luke doing it twice, once in 2007 and once in 2008. But right now, Bo Sparks is at 1,056 yards on the season, and Cam Luke's record in 2008 was 1,268. So he'd have to have a pretty remarkable game against South Alabama. Like I said, high scoring, pretty wild affair the last couple years between Texas State and South Alabama. But he also has 77 catches on the season, 2nd all-time behind DeMarcus Griggs, 3 catches away from that record. So if he gets to 80, he will have the most receptions in a season. I remember Joey Hobart got pretty close. I think it was 2023. Joey Hobart had like 76, something like that. So shout out to Bo Sparks, the 1,000-yard man. And he seemed confident he'd be back next season when they asked him about it at the press conference. I say he seemed confident when he said that the plan is to return next year. Lincoln Perry and Greg Burrell, 931 yards for Lincoln Perry, 530 for Greg Burrell on the season. Greg Burrell, 6.4 yards per carry. What a 1-2 punch for them. Lincoln Perry getting really 931 yards. He's really close to getting over that 1,000-yard mark. Hoping for that for him. Talked a lot about him in the last episode as well. I mean, gosh, talking about these offensive players, and a lot of them are going to be back next year. I didn't even talk about Chris Don. He's got like 770 yards on the season himself after missing some time and even starting the season with an injury. These are a lot of guys that are going to be back. All the guys I was just talking about outside of Lincoln Perry, they're all going to be back next year, or could be back if they're able to hang on to them. I mean, Brad Jackson, Bo Sparks, Brock Reicher's another young guy, the center. He's been playing really well at center. Chris Don, so many pieces on this offense that if they're able to just throw the bag at these guys and able to bring them back, it's going to have the Bobcats are going to have the top offense in the Pac-12 if they're able to bring back these guys. So that's got to be mission number one. Obviously, you want Brad Jackson. You got to do what you can there. And, you know, Brad Jackson, he's really proven to be a stand-up guy. And when he says things, he means it. Over summer, he did a podcast. I can't remember what podcast it was. Sorry for not shouting them out. If somebody knows, go ahead and chime in the comments, and we'll give them a shout-out. But he did a podcast where he was talking about that he values staying at a place for his entire career more than he does NIL money. And, you know, money talks. I brought it up last episode. Someone like Chandler Morris was able to get $1.2 million to transfer to a P4. So, you know, it's money it's going to be hard to turn down. But I imagine Texas State is putting together some sort of package or offer or something for Brad Jackson, for Bo Sparks, Chris Don, Greg Burrell. He transferred in from UNLV. He hopped in the portal after spring, hopped back out. It seemed like they were a little reluctant to give him some carries early on, but then it was just undeniable that he was the second guy there. If he were to come back, I imagine he would be the first running back on this depth chart. But that one is the one that'll be really interesting to keep an eye on, because he transferred from where he was from in Las Vegas before. He went to high school there, then he went to UNLV his freshman year before coming to Texas State. But they've been giving him a lot of carries recently, 81 carries on the season. I mean, if they're able to go to a bowl game, maybe he gets over 100, for the season. That would be a lot more carries than he has gotten. But, I mean, another big run against ULM. He had a big run the week before as well. I really like Greg Burrell, and if they can find a way to keep him, that would be massive. But there's so many pieces on this offense that if they bring back, they're going to be pack ready. Because then you look at the recruiting class, that's something else. They did lose 2 3-star commits. Texas State did, both of them from Louisiana, which I found interesting. Wonder if there's something there. We'll jump on recruiting soon. Regular season is about to wrap up. But you look at this recruiting class and the pieces they're bringing in, the offensive pieces as well as defensive pieces. This offense is really set up, and there's even guys that we haven't even gotten to see. I mean, they still have Tajee Atkins, who transferred in from Rice. Cole Pryor is a true freshman at running back. Some of these receivers like Jordan Martin, Tucker Casano, Skylar Lewis. There's a lot of these players that we haven't even seen yet. And these guys have proven, I mean, the coaching staff, they have proven that when they evaluate high school talent and they bring them in, they're eventually going to develop them into productive players. And we've seen that. And I know for me personally, when the transfer portal, when it started really popping off, I was very much you know what, hey, might as well get in there and go get as many experienced players as you can, guys who have proven themselves. But as time has gone on and I look at it, I see the value in bringing in a high school player and developing them and giving them those years. I mean, we've seen G.J. Kinney and this staff, they're reluctant to play true freshmen a whole lot. I mean, even one as good as Brad Jackson only got in for 3 games or so. We haven't seen a whole lot of true freshmen until these last few games, where it was certain that they won't play 4 games and they can retain that red shirt. But I think there's just so much more value in getting these high school players and waiting for them. Now, granted, a first-year coach, they get in there, you got to go get a bunch of transfers so that you can compete right away and win right away. You haven't built up enough recruiting classes to develop and to warrant people waiting for it. But now in year 3, we're really starting to see it pay off, and I think it's going to pay off even more in year 4. And I'm not saying that because of the guys that are committed in the 2026 class, because what we've seen from these coaches, they may not play those guys, but the ones that they do have coming up, I mean, there's players I've been waiting to see for years. Bami Badusi, I think, on the offensive line is one that comes to mind. I've been waiting to see him get out at tackle for a long time. He's a really talented player. But that's how it goes. I mean, even this year was the first time we finally saw some extended play of Amarian Atwood. And, it was a bit of a rough go for him when he took over fully for Will Mitchell, who's out for the year, was at that star position. They put in Amarian Atwood. It's a little bit of a rough adjustment at first, and now he's been playing fantastic. Number 23 out there at that nickel corner position, nickel back. I've really appreciated what he does. I've appreciated his confidence too, seeing him getting in some guys' faces and stuff, and you can see him really starting to feel comfortable with that position. But that was a guy that they brought in from the high school ranks, and they developed, and now you see what that development paying off. And even the guys that I'm talking about to bust the bag out for with Brad Jackson, with Brock Riker, these are guys that they were able to get from the high school ranks. Chris Don is one they were able to get from the high school ranks. It's not to say just forget the transfer portal, because then you miss out on the Burrells and the Bo Sparks and having a healthy mix of both. When it's too transfer heavy, you almost get too many mercenaries out there, and there's not enough people that truly love the place and love the process. You're getting guys who are really just looking for a check, and they're just going from place to place whenever they can get the most. But when you get that high school commit, somebody who had their choice of a bunch of places and they chose Texas State, they looked at Texas State as like, that's my future home. That's where I'm going to be in San Marcos. That's what you want. That's what you want to go after. And I feel like you can feel that a little bit of a flip. And who knows when the portal opens, how heavy they go for it and how many players they end up losing. But it's been interesting to watch college football. Just how much it changes and how much that changes my outlook on it, my opinions and everything with a lot of these things. But speaking of the transfer portal and talking about that, I brought it up a little bit last episode, and I actually had a special request from my dad. Shout out to my dad. He wanted an update on some of the people who transferred out, some of the players that left, how they're doing in their new places. Because, as I was saying, I said it a little bit at the top where maybe we got too excited in fall camp because they lost a lot of players. I'm not even going to mention Jordan McLeod, who graduated, Joey Hobart, who graduated, a lot of Nash Jones, who graduated, a lot of players that they lost naturally, if you will. I don't know if that's the proper way to put it. A lot of the ones that left when their eligibility was extinguished, they had a lot of players that left with eligibility and took a lot of production to some other places. So let's go through it. We'll go through it real quick. We'll start with the offense with Ishmati. Ishmati, I know, even though he left Texas State, I know a lot of us out there don't have any ill will towards that guy. What a great player. The fact he even came back to Texas State in 2024 after leading the nation in all-purpose yards in 2023, I'll always have a ton of respect for Ishmati. But he's with Arizona, the Wildcats. He's had 8 starts in 11 games, 738 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry. Seems like he's a part of a platoon for the Wildcats in Arizona. So shout out to Ishmati. Glad to see him getting some production, getting some carries. Let's go to Baylor with Cole Wilson at receiver. He's actually having a great season, 37 catches, 522 yards, 5 touchdowns, 14 yards per catch, just over 14 yards per catch for Cole Wilson. Big fan of Cole Wilson. He came to the bowl game in 2024, even though he didn't play in it after he had transferred to Baylor, because if you remember the bowl game, that one was in January for Texas State. So they were already able to transfer and leave. So he was at Baylor, but he still came as a fan and watched Texas State win that bowl game against UNT. So shout out to Cole Wilson, putting up some good numbers. In fact, better numbers than he had at Texas State, which is interesting when somebody goes to a P4 and actually get better numbers. Granted, he was probably second or third receiver with Chris Don and Joey Hobart and Bo Sparks in the mix as well last year. But shout out to Cole Wilson. Alex Harkey up in Oregon, the big offensive lineman, real local guy from Hayes High School in Buda, just down the street from San Marcos. Initially transferred in from Colorado, sat on the bench his first year, and then started every game last season. And, they just had an amazing PFF grade, one of the top right tackles according to Pro Football Focus and how they grade and evaluate players. And so he was able to net around 750K is the rumored number from Oregon. So he left for Oregon. Shout out to Alex Harkey, though. 10 starts for him. He has been starting up there. I know somebody was asking. They were like, I wasn't sure if he's been playing. He has been playing for sure. Arizona State. Let's go to Arizona State with Hameto Abibo. Saw him earlier in the season. His twin brother, Jameto Abibo. I always try to make that J in Jameto's name silent. I don't know why. I think it's because the G is silent in their last name. So then I try and make that Jameto. It's Jameto. Jameto Abibo. He transferred. His twin brother, Emeka, is still here at Texas State. But Jameto, 6 starts for ASU. Got to see the twin matchup between Texas State and Arizona State earlier in the season. Always fun to see that. But even, losing Alex Harkey, losing Abibo, losing Nash Jones after he graduated, and to still have the what I would say, the top offensive line in the Sun Belt is remarkable. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I feel I'm not mincing my words, and I don't say it lightly, that Jordan Shoemaker is the best offensive line coach in the Sun Belt. I think he really, truly proved it this year with losing those guys, with losing Ishmati, and still have what is the third best rushing offense in the Sun Belt. I mean, just turning out. They have almost another 1,000-yard rusher in Lincoln Perry coming up. Maybe, hopefully, he gets there. But then you have two other guys who are well over 500 yards in Burrell and Brad Jackson. I mean, just a tremendous job. Even after losing all those offensive linemen, they're able to go out and recruit more, but also move guys up that they developed. Looking at like Sully Burns and some of these other guys that they've moved in there, and they went out and found Lysander, put him at guard. Rapida as well, the UTSA transfer, saw him playing a lot of guard as well. I don't know his first name. I didn't type it down or anything, but number 55 out there playing a lot of guard himself. So just a really great job by the offensive line coach Jordan Shoemaker. Let's go to the defense. This is where they really lost some players, and I think that plays into what we saw this season, and that's why I probably should have taken this more into account in fall going into it, because I can remember in spring being more measured. Me and the Wizard, Zachary Webb, great producer here, host of Wizard Wednesday. Go check him out, Wizard Wednesday every Wednesday. We were a little more measured in the spring, and then we get to fall, and things we just got excited, I guess. Just got a little hyped up. Really hope they open up practices a lot more. I feel like I'll have a better feel of where they're at, but not likely. We know how GJ is. He keeps it too close to the vest. But let's go to the defense. SMU, Terry Webb, he was one of the players when the NCAA ruled that junior college didn't count towards your eligibility. Terry Webb benefited from that. Thought for sure he was going to come back to Texas State, but he didn't. He went to SMU, and similar to Cole Wilson, he actually saw stats increase. He has 11 starts for the Mustangs this season, 39 tackles, 5.5 sacks from the defensive tackle position. So a great season by Terry Webb, big 300-pound guy, really getting in there. When he played here, I got to meet his dad, and his dad is bigger than him. It's incredible. It was a huge, huge man. Shout out to the Webbs, Zachary Webb and Terry Webb. Lots of Webbs in my life recently. I'm surrounded by Webbs. Let's go to Arizona again. Ishmati's teammate, two-time teammate at Texas State, and then with the Wildcats, Max Harris at linebacker. He's got 10 starts, 68 tackles for Arizona. He started, it was like 10 of 12 games. I don't think he had 68 tackles at Texas State. He was a pretty good player just 1 year at Texas State. Then he transferred to Arizona. I'll be honest, that was one that they lost, and I was like, oh, okay, that should be fine. Then you kind of see the defensive struggles this year. And they've really figured out at linebacker with Traylon Payne, Terrence Cooks, getting Cole Nils in there quite a bit, number 45, Aiden Jones as well. It took them a while, I feel like, to find their balance at that linebacker position. Really, when you don't return anybody that had played in the system the year before, there can be some growing pains. I mean, Payne came back and everything, but the rest of the guys, they were kind of new. Even Michael Boudwin, it was just a new position for him. He'd been at Texas State for a while, but they moved him from DB to linebackers. A bit of growing pains there. Let's go to Michigan State. Joshua Eaton, cornerback for Texas State. Josh Eaton, remember him? Man, he was a yapper. Loved it in a good way. He would really get under receivers' skin just by being a pest and constantly gnawing at them all game. But at Michigan State, he has 8 starts in 12 games, 16 tackles, 2 pass breakups. Pretty good. He's definitely heavy in that rotation with 8 starts. Pretty good player himself. Virginia Tech, Ben Bell. We all know Ben Bell. 9 starts in 11 games at Virginia Tech, 27 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Decent stats. Definitely had way better stats at Texas State. Tough times for Virginia Tech as well. Let's go to Colorado. Tavian Coleman. It was him and Terry Webb were the interior of this defensive line the last couple years in 2023 and 2024 for Texas State. Both of them got extra eligibility. I thought they were both supposed to be done after the 2024 season. Then the NCAA ruled if you played JUCO, doesn't count towards your eligibility, or at least you get 1 extra year if you did play JUCO. And he took that and he went to Colorado, went to go play for prime time Deion Sanders. Just 5 games for him, 3 tackles. He hadn't played in a game since September, so I imagine some sort of injury issue. I didn't see anything around about that, but that's what I'm going to assume for him. Big fan of Tavian Coleman. Really like him. I knew him quite a bit personally. He was the one in 2023 who, when Texas State became bowl eligible and the team jumped in the river, he was the one who was yelling at me to jump in the river, peer pressuring me to do it, and I finally did it. So shout out to Tavian Coleman. Let's go to Indiana. Indiana having a heck of a year. Dominic Ratcliffe, you remember him, defensive lineman Dominic Ratcliffe. 11 games, no starts, but 10 tackles and a sack for the Hoosiers. So they're having a great year, and he is in that defensive line rotation for them. I remember that was always the issue at Texas State, is he was heavily involved. He'd play a lot, but he wasn't the starter most of the time. It'd just be if somebody was injured, he'd get in there and start, but he'd play a lot at Texas State. It seems like that's the situation for him in Indiana as well. Let's throw a special teamer in there just for good measure. Mason Shipley, kicker for the Texas Longhorns. He is 16 for 20 on the season. Just 1 for 4 on kicks over 50 yards, though. I like our guy Tyler Robles, man. Tyler Robles has got 3 of those this season. I think he's 3 for 4 on those big long kicks. One of his 2 misses this season was a 50-yarder. So shout out to Tyler Robles. Stay away from him, Texas. Okay, we're gonna keep him south of 35 from you guys. But yeah, looking at that's 11 players that I just named that they lost in the transfer portal. Now there's others. I didn't even go through. I wanted to find guys that were more P4 or at least close to a P4 that they left Texas State for. I mean, you have guys like Trenton Scott who went to Nevada. You have players that made more lateral moves or lower moves, if you will. No offense to any of those programs out there, but they had a lot of other players leave. I believe it was like around 17, 18 players transferred out, and that's just 10 or 11 of them that we discussed. But just looking at that and seeing these players that played for Texas State last year, and they go to these P4s and they have that type of production, and that's what Texas State is missing this season, are those players. I say missing like they haven't been able to make up for it. They have been able to with other players, with transfers that came in themselves. But I just, looking at that, it puts it in some perspective. I feel like my dad's good at that. That's why I asked about that. Like, well, how well are these transfers doing? It just adds a little extra perspective on the trials of the NIL transfer portal era, where things it's hard to replicate and do things the same as you did the season before. And that's why I ended the offensive section of this pod talking about you got to throw the bag at these guys. Brad Jackson, Bo Sparks, Chris Don, Brock Riker, Greg Burrell. You gotta pay them because this offense looks great. Want to keep it going, and they've proven they've been able to replace guys before. But I mean, when you have them in house and they already know the system and they're guys you've developed, it'd be nice to hang on to them. But big game this Saturday. Hopefully some of you come out there. South Alabama on Saturday, 2:30 kick. It'd be nice. Back-to-back afternoon kickoffs at UFCU Stadium. Not used to that one. Appreciate this one not being on Black Friday like we've seen previously before towards the end of the season for Texas State. The last 2 games have been really close. G.J. Kinney hasn't lost to South Alabama, but it's been close. It's 52-44 in 2023. And then 45-38 last season. So I anticipate high scoring. I anticipate a close game as well. Even though South Alabama, they can't make a bowl game, I imagine they would love to play spoiler and ruin Texas State's bowl chances. I meant to look it up, but I also know Texas State has a winning record over South Alabama. Because after last season, I was like, oh, look at that. I think it was like 6-4 over South Alabama, if I'm remembering correctly. So it'll be nice to leave the Sun Belt with a winning record over at least a couple teams. Southern Miss, the ULM, maybe. I meant to check that one as well. But then South Alabama, that would be good. But Saturday at home, hopefully to see y'all out there. We saw the crowd on Saturday. It was I wouldn't call it a disappointment. I could see how it looked bad on probably on the broadcast, and some of you seeing pictures on social media and everything. But really, I mean, this game, it's these games that sandwich Thanksgiving before the Saturday before Thanksgiving and the Saturday after Thanksgiving, always pretty tough attendance wise because everybody goes home for Thanksgiving. There's no classes that week, so they're just not really around. They have other plans. It's always been a tough go to get fans during this time of the year, and they were able to pull 17,000 and some change was the official number. That felt higher than what I was looking at, but I always sit on the home side in the press box, so there's a lot more fans on the home side than there were in the student section this game. So the fact that a low number for Texas State is 17,000 and some change, that's a bad number, tells me how far this place has come, because these late November games, towards the end of the season games, when Thanksgiving is around the corner and the team isn't necessarily lights out on the season, there's not a ton of excitement. It's really hard to get fans out there. And yeah, this is less fans than they're used to, less fans than they've seen all this season and the last couple seasons. But it is still more better than it has been in years past. So at least there's that. It's not good enough. They are still trending upward. And it feels like this trending upward that we've talked about, where since 2023, they've trended upward, and it seems like they've hovered around this area, 6-6, 7-5, where we're getting over that hump and getting a true blue winning season, one that has 8, 9, 10 wins in it, during the regular season. I think that's the next step, is elevating it past this area. It feels like they went up, and then they've plateaued a little bit. See if they can continue trending up with the Pac-12 coming up and a lot of those good things. I feel like a lot of that starts with paying Brad Jackson. Go pay that guy. Pay him. Whatever. I don't know. If that's what he needs, rev share, NIL, we'll figure it out. Crowdsource it. I'll help out. Listen, free of charge. Whatever we got to do to promote him. I don't have money. That's one thing I can't help you out with. But I can help you promote whatever we got to do to get that man paid. But all right, everybody, great episode. This episode was brought to you by Austin Patchmaster, our great friends at austin.patchmaster.com. Hole in the wall, give APM a call. Drywall repair, paint jobs, popcorn removal, and more. Whether you're moving in, moving out, or just looking to upgrade, Austin Patchmaster has you covered. Third season sponsor in Win Now or Get Bent. Owned and operated by a Tech State grad and a true Tech State sicko, Michael Clements. Austin Patchmaster was one of our very first sponsors. He got us before all the G.J. Kinney and all the winning. He was in the spring of 2023. So he's a true blue Texas State fan. Austin Patchmaster, they have 200 plus 5-star reviews on Google. They are a great business. Mention WNOGB and you'll get a 10% discount. Check them out at austin.patchmaster.com. Call them at 512-200-3888. That's 512-200-3888. austin.patchmaster.com. All right. Thank you to Austin Patchmaster. Thank you to TGC. And thank you to BHI Hats. Check me out right here, bhihats.com. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/winnoworgetbent. Our merch site's still under construction. You see me with the Mad Cat shirt. We're going to come back with a lot of these. I was hoping to do it during the season. We'll do it during the off season. If you're watching on YouTube as well, you can see I'm back in the office. I don't have the same decorations I usually have in my studio. I do have a little more elbow room. The mic's a little higher and everything. We're under construction with a lot of things, merch and the studio in here. But I'm really appreciating the more space that I have here and the higher microphone. We'll see how this works out. I had a desk that was taking up a lot of room. I really wanted that desk in here, but we'll get some good decorations. We'll fix some of these panels if you're watching on there. If you have any recommendations on what I should do in here, with decoration wise or fixing it up wise, feel free to jump in those comments on YouTube. Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. Check us out. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're an audio head, thank you for tuning in on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I know that's how I love to consume my pods or audio. You know, we're busy guys. We got stuff to do. Throw in a headphone, get the day going. But shout out to all of you. But if you're out there and you have a chance to get on YouTube and subscribe to us, help us out. Beef up those subscribers that we can on YouTube. Make sure you check us out on Twitter at Win Now or Get Bent on Twitter, on Instagram and TikTok at WNOGB. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. Sign up your friends. You know, if you can sign up a UTSA friend or foe, most likely foe. You can sign them up, and I'll make sure to remind them that they are not undefeated in the Alamo Dome, as they so like to claim. Has anybody seen that one going around Twitter? Literally, Bobcats just beat them in the Alamo Dome. They were trying to pass that one off. They had a whole graphic and everything. But yeah, you can sign up a UTSA friend, and I'll make sure to remind them of that fact that they owe Brad Jackson rent because he owns the dome. Bo Sparks, put him to sleep. Everybody remember it. That's been the most fun I've had, even when it's been a tough year for Tech State, a roller coaster year. And on the down part of that roller coaster, even in the pit with a 5-game losing streak, a UTSA fan will try and say something in my mentions on Twitter, and I just got to hit him with that video of Bo Sparks putting him to sleep. That night video. It's been great. We at least have those bragging rights. Wish they could have gotten it over Louisiana, because boy, they're sure loving that 13-0 streak over the Bobcats. But at least we've got it over UTSA. And I don't know, and it feels like I always ruffle feathers when I say I want UTSA in a bowl game, especially if both teams finish 6-6. You know, put it first responder bowl. Let's go. Let's drive up to Dallas. But I want it. I don't know why that's controversial, but some of you out there don't want to do it. Maybe preserve the win so at least we get a full year before we lose those bragging rights. See, you got to have the mindset that you're never going to lose those bragging rights. All right, this has been entirely too long. Sorry, this is supposed to be the outro of the pod. We'll be getting it cooking. Lots coming this week. Wizard Wednesday on Wednesday. Make sure you check that out. Get you a good preview before this final game as well. Thank you again to our sponsors, TGC LLC, BHI Hats, and Austin Patchmaster. One more shout out to the Wizard, Zachary Webb. Check him out, Wizard Wednesday. And thank you to you sickos for always tuning in. Without you, I would be shouting into the void, and this would all be for nothing, but it's not, because you are here. We are able to continue doing this, doing what we love, and we're going to take it even further in 2026 and beyond. Can't wait, everybody. All right, thanks for tuning in. Win now or get bent.